two things you lose when you separate from the military is you lose your housing and you lose your job. So with loss of a job, we lose identity. We can't provide for our families. And so things like that are important that we have to, as a community, make sure when they come out that they have jobs. And if education is the bridge between my service and that job, that career that I need to take care of my family, Johnson C. Smith University wanted to be instrumental in that.
Welcome to Lost Soldiers, a production of Wreaths Across America Radio, brought to you by SaveCedarGrove.org and HistorySouth.org. Here are your hosts, Shay Malik Abdullah and Dr. Tom Hanchett.
And welcome to the next episode of Lost Soldiers. I'm Shay Malik Abdullah, I've said in the past, and here with me is the effervescent Dr. Tom Hanchett. Charlotte historian, all-around good fellow.
Glad to join Shay Abdullah on this quest to dig into the histories of the soldiers in this everyday, ordinary cemetery. Well, you know, everyday heroes is what we're talking about. The cemetery is on Beatty's Ford Road in the West Charlotte area, an area that is a long, proud black history. And it is a cemetery that until a few years ago was largely forgotten. It was started back in the 19th century. Soldiers from World War I, World War II are buried there, and perhaps some Vietnam soldiers. We're still digging into that. And so we're very fortunate to have help from folks like the Carolina Room of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. We're recording today at Imaginon, the theater and library facility in the Cedar City. We have a Veterans Bridge Home and Wreaths Across America as partners as well.
Today we have the honor of a very special guest from Johnson C. Smith University, Dr. Cheryl Curtis. Tom?
So let me just say a word about what we're going to try and do today with Dr. Curtis is give a little bit more context, because back in the day, the soldiers that we're talking about, the education component of their lives was very important. There's a soldier, Bernard Hemphill, who came back from serving in World War II and was an officer in a new college, the student body at Dr. Carver College, which is an ancestor of today's Central Piedmont Community College. So what we want to do is with Dr. Curtis is get a little perspective on what Johnson C. Smith University in the heart of this West Charlotte area, what they are doing today in terms of veterans.
Dr. Curtis, I have some information, and I'm so appreciative of you and Johnson C. Smith University for the help that you've provided in the effort at Cedar Grove. One of the awesome things that you guys did was bring the mobile education exhibit from Wreaths Across America to campus, again, to highlight the veteran service and commitment from all types of people, but particularly the African-American soldiers that joined the fight to make America what it is. In our research, we found out a couple great things. Actually, one of the Johnson C. Smith military connections we found was right from the beginning, with Biddle being a Union officer. And the original school was named after him, we know that. So we're really interested to hear from you about your veteran connections, your plans at JCSU, and all the incredible things that you guys are doing over there.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you all. One thing that I would say, my connection with veterans, as some that know me, I am the spouse of a retired combat soldier. So being a military spouse, it's important to me, the advocacy to make sure that whatever families need, the veteran, the spouse's dependents, what they need, we want to make sure that we have those things in place. And so some years ago in my research that I was doing as a doctoral intern, because that's how how I began my connection with Johnson C. Smith University. Well, I'll go back. My husband is a graduate of Johnson C. Smith University. Right. And one of the things that made us find Johnson C. Smith University so appealing when he decided to enroll as a student. And of course, he already had served his 20 years in the military. It was the only institution in the area that said if he started, we would make sure that he finished. So I appreciated that support. And then some years later, under Dr. Carter, when they opened an adult degree program, I was able to do my doctoral internship there and help be a part of the team that bought the $3.4 million from Duke dollars. And so because Dr. Carter was so impressed with the work that I did, he said, I want you there. And part of the work that he wanted me to do was veterans advocacy, because veterans advocacy was what I was doing as part of just my giving back to the community. It was nothing that I was being paid to do, or because I felt like because my family was doing really well as a military family, we needed to pay it forward. And so I was appreciative that Johnson C. Smith University said, we'll take your talents and we'll allow you to use that here. And so from that, it has grown. I'm going to say this, and you hate to toot your own home, but I am responsible for our inaugural Student Veterans of America program that we have at Johnson C. Smith University, because when I was researching to find out what institutions should have to really support veterans, one of the things, so there's a U.S. Department of Education said there's 8 keys to veteran success. One, having a dedicated space. One, having camaraderie where they can get together, find each other. Also having someone in place who would develop policy or work with the institutions to develop policy that would ignore the veterans. So that's the work that I've been doing. Just recently, Dr. Valerie Kinlock, our 15th president, signed our joint services transcript policy into being. And what that allows us to do at Johnson C. Smith University is to take the experience and trainings that veterans got when they served, and that can translate to college credits. So that could reduce the time that they're at an institution. But also what it would do is when a veteran comes out and needs to be marketable or feels I'm not marketable enough and I have to have that post-secondary education to be marketable, our having a joint services transcript policy in place reduces that time that they have to be there. And then, of course, they can get that degree that they need so they can be more marketable. Because the 2 things you lose when you separate from the military is you lose your housing and you lose your job. So with loss of a job, we lose identity. We can't provide for our families. And so things like that are important that we have to, as a community, make sure when they come out that they have jobs. And if education is the bridge between my service and that job, that career that I need to take care of my family, Johnson C. Smith University wanted to be instrumental in that. We have a Veterans Resource Center that we just cut the ribbon on because, again, that dedicated space where they can come, relax, relate, release, but also have folks on staff who are there to make sure that if there's a way, if you need to navigate higher education, because higher education, civilian world, particularly people who've been in for several years, it's a difference. It's almost akin to I was out of society and I had this really regimented, prescripted way that I could do life, and then now I'm out and I don't know how to navigate this new world, but I need this new world so I can be a part of it. So the Veteran Resource Center, in it we have a lounge, we have a study area that's quiet, we have multi-purpose rooms, we have classrooms, that way, because our hope is that classes on military science will eventually be taught, because just recently, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, we brought back ROTC. So ROTC had been gone from when I got to Smith, in my doctoral internship started in 2014, and they hired me in 2015. We didn't have ROTC, and that was a heavy lift to get ROTC back. But one of the things that we want to do with those classrooms is have ROTC instructors actually come to our campus, because right now the ROTC hub is at UNC Charlotte. So students from all around this area, if you're in Wingate, if you're in Davidson, if you're at Belmont Abbey, Johnson, we all go to UNC Charlotte, and sometimes that can be a hardship for a student. But we have our first cadet 3 semesters ago. We're up to 3 cadets now. One of them has been contracted, and if you don't know what it means to be contracted means ROTC has said, okay, we're going to pay your tuition and books, and when you walk across the stage as a graduate, you will be commissioned. And one of the things that I find so interesting about this particular cadet Cadet Perkins, who has been contracted, is he was prior service. He was an MP in the National Guard. And so because of joint services transcript, we were able to translate his time and training into college credits. So he was only in ROTC one semester before he was contracted. And now he will walk across the stage in a year or two and he'll be commissioned an officer. So that's the importance. Some of the things that we're doing that is just really important.
Let me ask you to paint a picture of Johnson C. Smith University, because some of the folks hearing this are thinking, what am I going to be doing next? And so finding their way onto campus, finding their way to the Veterans Center is something that they'll want to do. To me, it is one of the most beautiful places in Charlotte. It's actually got old buildings as well as very new ones, which is a rarity in this city. But tell people a little bit about Johnson C. Smith.
So you stole a little bit of my thunder, because I was going to say it's very aesthetically pleasing. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure with our Veteran Resource Center is that it would be a place, and I invite you all to come tour, that it be a place where when you come into the building, it is a place of calm. The people that work to support the veterans, we're a source of calm. We're boots on the ground. If it's something you don't know, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable not only asking for help, because I do believe that it takes a very brave person to say, listen, I don't know everything. I don't have everything. I need your help. So one of the things that we make sure is that if you come and you ask for help, we're not going to make you feel some kind of way because you asked for that help. But we work with various departments to make sure we understand how those departments are integral in making sure the role that they play in making sure that veterans are successful. Because if you come, just like what they told my husband years ago, if you come, we're going to make sure you graduate. And we don't want those years of graduation, those years towards graduation, to be like, I came, I saw, I conquered. We want you to feel empowered. So one of the things that's really important to me as the director of our Veterans and Military Affairs at Johnson C. Smith University is feedback from the veteran is essential. And so we put mechanisms in place where when you come in the building, we check in, we find out why did you come, what services that you wanted. But when you leave, there's a quick exit, QR code, quick exit survey. We want you to rate our professionalism. Did we give you what you needed? And if we didn't give you what you needed, how can we be better? And if we did give you what you needed, how can we be better? So we constantly are seeking the feedback and support from the veterans. So it's not just front facing, I'm the face of it. We want the veterans to be the face of a department that is for them, and we want anyone that's involved with these veterans to also understand that you have to know what it is that they need. Because years ago, a veteran came to me and says, listen, I'm not going to tell people what they should do for me. They should already know. And I said, but if you look at a community or just a world where less than 1% have served, you're going to encounter people who have never served. So it is your job to be an advocate for yourself and tell those people who are responsible for working with you, tell them how they can be an ally. Tell them how they can partner so that you can get effective, efficient support so that you don't feel like that's just one piece of bureaucracy that doesn't support me. So if you come to Johnson C. Smith University and you encounter me, what is it you need? What can we do for you? And again, we are boots on the ground. If you look, I have on sneakers today because I'm about moving and we're going to get it done. We're going to get done what needs to be done. And so it's a family feel. You are one, you're important, and we need you. We need your feedback. And one of the things that we're doing now is we're going to start our Green Zone training. And if people are not familiar with Green Zone training is a training that you give to faculty and staff in higher ed so that they can learn a little bit more about the veteran. Because a lot of people say, well, I had an uncle who served, or my mother did this, or mother did that. But we want you to understand in higher ed, how does that translate to the things that you, faculty and staff and students are doing. And one of the things that we're really proud about our Green Zone training, that happens all across the country. But our Green Zone training, we are soliciting the support of our president and vice president of our Student Veterans of America. They're going to do the training along with our Veteran Service Coordinator so that when faculty and staff get Green Zone training, they're going to get it from folks who actually served.
So the campus, for folks who don't know, is very close to downtown Charlotte. It's got lots of parking. If you're coming by car, if you're coming by bus, it is an easy ride from downtown. And it's the oldest building, Biddle Hall. It was the original name of the university, is from 1887. I love Victorian architecture. I love being on that campus. Big old trees, brand new science, technology, and math building that just opened a couple of years ago, and everything in between. So if you're thinking about exploring Dr. Curtis's world, which building is the Veterans Center in?
It is in the Robert L. Albright building.
Named for a former president.
That's a great transition, all the background that you set up about what veterans need and what it means to be a veteran and how it's different than civilian life. Brings me back to our topic of lost soldiers. When we decided to do this show, Tom and I, and through a lot of the work I've been able to do at Cedar Grove with Johnson C. Smith's help, we've really thought about what it must have meant for some of these gentlemen that served and who ended up, and we find them in an abandoned cemetery in the heart of such a rich Black community. What we really want to get a look at what that service meant for those folks, and equally important, what it meant for this country. We really want to celebrate our veterans for what they do, but we want to celebrate all of them. And these lost soldiers have given us a great path to look at engagement over time and what service really meant. We found recently that we have a soldier in Cedar Grove from the Spanish-American War. His name is Lesko Airy, and we are getting deep into our research now because we're so excited that it goes back that far. And, you know, some of the research on that and what it must have been like for these men looking for an opportunity to serve their country. I say men, but men and women. Most of what we've located in Cedar Grove so far, and I think it's because of the timeline, are really men that served. But we know that women played an incredible role and continue to play an incredible role. So our lost soldiers, while we are focused on the male population that we have there, we want to use that as an opportunity to talk about military service, past, present, and future, and the folks that are involved in it. So like I said, we are so thankful for the participation JCSU has provided us in uncovering these stories, changing that property, and hopefully as things go forward, we'll be able to cement that connection even stronger to support all the work that you're doing there and really raising up the role that these veterans have played in making America what it is. Tell us a little bit more about your family connection to the military and what that meant, what that was like, and how it changed your dynamic in the community where your family was, that you had that connection to service.
So our family connection, I think that people have a misconception of you go off to the military. I would say in the Black community where I grew up, a lot of the folks who went off and served, like my uncle, he's a retired Air Force, but he was the one in the family that was doing really well. Like everybody who struggled financially, he's the person that's doing well. He's driving nice cars. He has a house. And when he retired, he had retirement money. And so it's like, wow, you know, in our communities, that's the person that whenever they came back, you know, so-and-so went off, they joined the military, they joined the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever they joined, they came back and they were celebrated. They could send allotments home. So if you were struggling financially in your community, which a lot of us were, but you had that family member who sent home an allotment, I was like, wow, he's doing really well because, and I say he because a lot of times it was a male, he's doing really well because he has enough money to send home money for allotments. And so it's really crazy when me and my husband got married, we were stationed in Fort Knox, and I won't speak to the first housing area we lived in. So I grew up at one point in eastern North Carolina in housing projects. And he also grew up in housing projects in Baltimore. And our first housing area when we were in Fort Knox projects would have been like several steps up. It was unbelievable, the deplorable conditions that service members were living in. And then their pay was so low that a lot of them qualified for food stamps and things of that, you know, but couldn't make their ends meet. We were very fortunate as a family because by the time my husband and I got married, I had a degree. So I was the spouse that could work I taught a lot of times, or I worked for the Department of Defense. So I could have a really good salary job to go with my husband, who when he retired, he was senior enlisted. But when he first started out, the money wasn't what, privates don't make a lot of money, specialists don't make a lot of money. So a misconception that people have is that military people have all this money. And they're living in a lap of luxury. But when we go home and see our families, they only see that person that comes home that looks like they're doing a little bit better. So there's a little bit of a struggle. And when we lived overseas in Germany, and our youngest daughter was born in Germany, regardless of your income, you qualified for WIC. So, of course, but there are a lot of folks who qualify for a lot of these services. And the military does provide a lot of perks and advantages, but there's a lot of struggle. And so these people, they go in and they serve their country, they stand up and they live sometimes in those deplorable conditions, or that's a part of the sacrifice they make for their family, even if they're not in combat. So they are doing this thing that the veterans like to say at JCSU, we serve so you all could sleep under a blanket of protection. You didn't even know what's going on. And so my connection in knowing that our family we always could do better than the average family. So knowing that we could do better, I always think about, but what do people who are less fortunate than ourselves, what do they do? So I always do that. Like I do that now. And that's what made me get into the advocacy with veterans. When I think about when my husband first got out and some of the services that we applied for were really slow, again, here I am. I had a job where I worked for, at the time, as a science consultant for the state of North Carolina for North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, which afforded me a salary that, while my husband was waiting on disability benefits or, to supplement retirement, things like that, I'm drawing a nice salary that allows me, we can travel to Duke, we can travel to Salisbury, we can travel all over, wherever we need to go. I even spoke at the the Congressional Black Caucus's annual legislative conference because I can go to D.C., but I did it under the sponsorship of Dow Chemical Corporation because I knew the connections. But I could do that, but I also think our family's okay. But what about families that don't have the connections to a Dow Chemical Corporation because they're not a science consultant for the state of North Carolina, or you have the means to travel, or before the VA could get him an appointment, we decided if we had to pay for a private physician, we'll pay for a private physician. So what do other families do? So it was really important to me, if I ask the question, what do they do? The question then becomes, what do I do? And how do I become the person that they need in that instance to even say, if you don't want to speak up, come tell me what you need, what question needs to be asked, so I can ask the question for you and make sure you have those supports. So my connection is, we've been afforded a fantastic life because of the military and my husband being a veteran. But that's not everybody's story. And we have to, as a country, as a community, understand that we have to help those who served so we can sleep under this blanket of protection that we take for granted every day.
We're talking about the Veterans Center at Johnson C. Smith University in Albright Hall. You may not have written that down when we went past it the first time, but I think you're getting interested now.
Definitely make a note of that, and Dr. Cheryl Curtis and all the hard work she's done. Dr. Curtis, you can figure out very quickly that my passion about Cedar Grove runs deep. So I want to go back to our lost soldiers a little bit, because you really touched on some things that I think are really paramount for their decisions to go into service, in the juxtaposition of what was happening here in America, specifically Charlotte, at the time of, if we can sort of set a picture, we'll call it World War II. I'll give you an interesting anecdotal story that Tom and I actually uncovered, is my own family connection to the military and to the Cedar Grove property. There is a soldier, Wendell French, who served in World War II. He was a part of the 463rd Port Company. I think I got that correct. And I mentioned him to Tom as a part of the list of soldiers we wanted to look into. Tom did some fantastic research and came up with almost like a yearbook of their service time of Wendell French's unit. Well, Wendell wrote quite a few articles in that book. And as I'm reading, the first thing that Tom sends me, my grandfather's name pops up. as a service maid of windows. I had no idea. And my grandpa had 5 kids. I've asked all of them on multiple occasions about his service, and none of them knew a thing about it. But because of this project and because of Lost Soldiers, that's something that happened to me personally, to my family, is that we got to understand a little bit more about his service, understand more about him as a man, but it also sort of changed our connection to the country, right? Because now we can say loud and proud, like, we have earned this. Our ancestors have fought for this for us. So the Lost Soldiers, that's what it really means to me, is to talk about them. We want to find their family members. We want to make sure they understand that there is a connection full of benefit for them based on the service that these Lost Soldiers have put in. So I'm interested, Tom, if you can maybe set us up a little bit with Charlotte at that time. We're going with World War II, just because we know and I've identified a Lost Soldier in Cedar Grove about that. And I think it's important to share more of that.
Well, Charlotte today is a big, very modern city, and I think if you'd gone back to the 1940s, people would have said, of course it is now, too. But it was a pretty small town. It was a railroad hub. There were textile mills here. Duke Power was headquartered here. And in 1940, they made the census come do a recount so that they would pass 100,000 people living in Charlotte. At that point, Johnson C. Smith University was pretty close to the edge of town. That's how small the town was. Just beyond it was what's now Northwest School of the Arts, a national award-winning arts magnet school. But that was the original home of West Charlotte High School, which was the brand new suburban black high school for Mecklenburg County. And the vibrant life along that corridor was something that people today still talk about. They talk about people who were Johnson C. Smith graduates, who were military veterans, folks who came back from World War II and played big roles in the civil rights movement. People like Dr. Emory Rand, who was the leading physician in town, helped desegregate the hospital. Reginald Hawkins, who was a dentist, who was a graduate of Johnson C. Smith University and an instructor there later on. A dentist who led a lot of the protest movements here. So it is an area that is intertwined with veterans' history. And it's often easy to miss that if you're an outsider. Talk some about the ways you are outreaching into the community. I don't know whether that's a primary value with what you're doing, but I suspect it is because of what you've been telling us.
So Johnson C. Smith University anchors the historic West End. So regardless of what's going on in the historic West End, Johnson C. Smith University is seen as a partner. One of the things that I did a little bit more when I first started at JCSU was reached out to VFWs if there's something happening. Because, for example, I've shared with you that we are going to be starting a collaboration with Piedmont Music Therapy to mental health therapy to find an alternative way for veterans to have mental health support. And so that is open to not just Johnson C. Smith University veterans, but it's also open to veterans in the community. And so spouses and dependents may be able to peek into that a little bit too. But one of the things is we want to make sure that whatever it is, the support that you need, because my first title that I had at Johnson C. Smith University was Director of Educational Enhancement Services / Dedicated Veterans Advocate. So recently they changed my title to Director of Veterans and Military Affairs. So in that Educational Enhancement Services, because my background is developmental education, that's what my doctorate is in. What I was charged with doing, and I still do, is to find the resources on campus and off campus that will support our students. And oftentimes those resources that support our students support the community. And so we open it up because, again, we are a partner with the historic West End of Charlotte. And so we have to provide those services almost like a given. It's not like we're like peeking out at everybody in West Charlotte and say, hey, sorry, you all are struggling. Sorry, you all are in turmoil. Oh, hey, we have this great thing and you don't get to be a part of it. And so when thinking about what you were saying about not knowing that your grandfather served, a lot of times, particularly after World War II, we do know that veterans never talked about it. They served, you never talked about it. So one of the things that we are I guess we're backing up against now with veterans of today is encouraging them, again, for that self-advocacy, to talk about your services, the good, the bad, the ugly, but also to not have a time like World War II where we didn't know that, what do you mean grandfather served? I recently found out that my father-in-law served, because we're trying to make sure he has support, and as we're looking at different doctors, and he was like, well, maybe I could try the VA. Well, everybody can't go to the VA. He said, well, I was in the Army from this time to this time. So it's like, oh my God, but they didn't talk about it. And so uncovering that you have a relative, we want to be able to say to veterans that you can speak about it. And one thing that I've learned in my research with female veterans, if they didn't go into combat or they didn't do certain things, they'd say, well, I was in, but they don't like to share that they served. When I first got to Johnson C. Smith University in 2017, I did research, and the question was, why would veterans use a private HBCU such as Johnson C. Smith University as part of their transitional support? And one of the things that we learned in that research was that at the time, the majority of veterans at Johnson C. Smith University were females, not the spouse, not the dependent, but they actually served. So we made sure we put resources in place that would help the female veteran, such as we got a U.S. Department of Ed grant. Child care access means parents in schools to pay for daycare for those veteran women, but we opened it up to other students. So therefore, we were able to help the community, not just veterans at Johnson C. Smith University, but other community members who needed child care support.
I love all of this. Robert Albright Hall on the campus of Johnson C. Smith University. I'll bet you've got a phone number and a website, maybe, and an email for sure. Tell folks how they can get in touch with you.
So I just got an email this week, and they're really working on upgrading the website for Johnson C. Smith University, but you can find me there because I feel like I'm always there at Johnson C. Smith University at the Robert L. Albright Hall. My email address is ccurtis@jcsu.edu, and I'll spell it CCURTIS@jcsu.edu. And let me remember the phone number, 704-378-3581. That's how you reach me directly, 704-378-3581. Again, I'm Dr. Cheryl Harris Curtis.
Well, this was amazing, Dr. Curtis. Thank you so much for spending some time with Tom and I and helping us fill out the story about the Black Veteran Service, Beatty's Ford, Johnson C. Smith University, our lost soldiers at Cedar Grove. We look forward to future collaboration to help you expand the opportunities that you're creating for our veterans and veteran families in the community. And we look forward to having you back, to be honest, and getting some updates about the incredible work you guys are doing. As we mentioned, Reads Across America's mobile education exhibit was hosted at JCSU last year. I'm hoping we can do something similar this year. And again, spend a lot more time celebrating the lost soldiers of Cedar Grove in an effort to build the veteran community and veteran support network that we're able to offer here in Charlotte, and hopefully a model that is able to travel around the country as we celebrate these lost soldiers en masse. So thank you again, Dr. Cheryl Curtis. As always, thank you, Dr. Tom Hanchett. Thank you for joining us with the lost soldiers of Cedar Grove. Thank you to Veterans Bridge Home, Reads Across America, Imaginon, Carolina Room of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, and our good friend over there, John O'Connor, who's been essential in helping us find out great information and getting great access to the facilities here of the Mecklenburg Public Library. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Lost Soldiers, a production of Wreaths Across America Radio, brought to you by SaveCedarGrove.org and HistorySouth.org.